Fide.email, you don't need to compromise faith to participate in the modern world. Instead of pushing ads and invasive practices that conflict with Catholic values, we built Fide to reclaim technology for Christendom. When you use Fide.email, you declare your commitment to technology that defends Christian tradition. Join Fide.email today and use technology to advance Christendom.
There's sort of an ongoing, you can call it debate if you want to, among traditional Catholics. Well, maybe it's not among traditional Catholics. There's a concerted effort out there through a weird alliance between sedevacantists and very partisan conservative Catholics who want to see traditionalists knocked down a peg or two. It seems what this happens to look like anyway to me, where there are a lot of out-of-context accusations being leveled against certain traditional voices about being interested in the dark arts and playing footsie with those things, maybe crossing the line when it comes to trying to understand these things that draw these dark things that people are drawn to. And every few years you see accusations against certain people brought up, even if that person has apologized for them already and worked with their priest or their bishop or whoever the competent authority for this is to make sure things don't happen again. There are certain people out there who are never satisfied, and they keep digging this stuff up. I'll leave the current version of this debate, the 2025 version, as opposed to the 2022 version and the 2017 version and all the way back. I'll leave that to people interested in the subject. But there's a different problem with this. There's plenty in the mainstream church today to go off of that you could really try to weed out of the problem if you were so concerned about the prevalence of the dark arts in Catholic circles today. I'm going to give you an example that happened at the beginning of June that came and went while this debate was going on. Nobody raised an eyebrow. They were like, oh, ho hum, whatever. This isn't some online personality with a giant audience that we can grift clicks off of by attacking them. So instead, we're going to ignore this very real problem where we see this in a parish in a major diocese, in an iconic parish in a major diocese. And instead, we're just going to go after some internet personality. It's really ridiculous. And I will just go right here to the article that is the source of this. This happened in France, in a historic parish that can only be, I can say, only describe this as historic parish, because it is. And the headline the story comes to us from lecatho.fr. This is a French Catholic news website. And the headline, Scandal at the Guémené Penfao Mass, Witches in the Spotlight. And if you see that picture there, I am not joking with you. Yes. I mean, this looks like something right out of like Bedknobs and Broomsticks or some old corny 1980s and 1990s Disney Halloween movie. And these are very serious people at a parish church with the permission of a priest who knows better. And the bishop hasn't come down on anybody for this. This was something that really happened. And this caused an international problem for them. Nothing happened. If you want to look for problematic elements in the church, there are people out there who broadcast what they're doing. They don't think there's a problem, as you are going to see in this weird story from just a couple of weeks ago. Let's go right into the story. Quote, on Sunday, June 1st, 2025, the St. Peter and St. Paul Church in Guémené Penfao and the St. Anne of Don Valeni Parish Complex, Diocese of Nantes, there's your first problem, Parish Complex, that's a modern problem in the church, was the scene of a disturbing event during Holy Mass, an affair reported exclusively on lecatho.fr by one of the parishioners scandalized by this initiative. The usual fervor of the parishioners, bolstered by a choir that does remarkable work, devoted altar servers, and entire families who are deeply Catholic and respectful, was overshadowed by incongruous intrusion. The official participation of the Confraternity of the Fairy Carabosse in the Sunday liturgy. This episode, far from trivial, raises serious questions about respect for the sacred and the responsibility of local clergy. Just as an aside here, what you're about to see happened in a conservative Reverent Novus Ordo parish. Communion on the tongue permitted. traditional sounding hymns performed in a traditional way, all of the things you want out of what some people call a unicorn mass. The way the mass is offered in the new rite, if it was done universally like this, the traditionalist movement would be much tinier than it is. This can happen in any parish, anywhere. So if you're going to be concerned about people doing things they shouldn't, let's focus on real things. Back to the article. The parish of Gemene Penfao is known for the vitality of its faith. Thanks to the exceptional work of Father Arnaud de Gilbert, who was able to fill a once deserted church, the community has rebuilt itself around authentic fervor. The faithful, from entire families to altar servers, are zealously committed to the church, supported by a magnificent choir that lifts hearts during celebrations. Yet this Sunday, Father Arnaud's work of winning back souls was compromised by a clumsy, even scandalous initiative. Members of the Brotherhood of the Fairy Carabosse, dressed in costumes reminiscent of witches, black capes, red collars, and pointed hats, were invited to participate in the Mass. Worse, they occupied the first rows, reserved by a sort of great mistress witch, surely the Grand Master, as stipulated on their site, a title identical to that of the Stonecutters, who, from the forecourt, distributed the program of the Mass while indicating to the faithful where to sit, relegating the parishioners to the back of the church. This staging, disrespectful to the faithful in the holy place, shocked the assembly. So who is this famous Carabosse whose memory the gentle ladies came to honor during Mass? Originally, the fairy Carabosse is a character from the folklore of the Don Valley in that local region. The story goes that she took revenge on the peasants' mockery by cursing them, and that she was then petrified after a poorly executed spell. Carabosse is neither a saint nor an edifying heroine. She is a menacing, vengeful creature associated with curses who resembles a witch more than a saint. She inspired the name of the wicked fairy in Perrault's tale, Sleeping Beauty. And it must be said bluntly, this type of figure, even a folkloric one, has no place in a church. The Brotherhood itself acknowledged that their costume has long been mistaken for that of witches. This is no coincidence. The large red collar, the long black sleeves, wide-brimmed hat, all recall classic satanic iconography. And instead of learning a lesson from this, they simply added a veil to their hats, thinking it would create a diversion. A blasphemous oath was taken in the sanctuary. The icing on the cake is that this brotherhood doesn't just parade in costume. It also has a well-established induction oath, dating from July 16, 2011, in which members promise each year to don their costumes to honor the faith of Carabosse, and to promote their pseudo-cultural activities under the guise of returning to the customs of yesteryear. And then they give you the wording of their oath. You can read that for yourself if you are so inclined. And we'll just leave it there. Anybody see a problem with this? At Mass? Wearing costumes that look like they got bought at Spirit Halloween to portray a character from Bedknobs and Broomsticks or some other similar trashy Hollywood Halloween film. Look, there's nothing wrong with folklore being remembered. The church is the reason we know about the ancient pagan gods. The church preserved their memory because they're part of the culture. And it was a good way to teach people where they came from and what the gospel freed them from, while honoring whatever positive lessons might be learned from those stories. But this is a little different. This figure is not exactly a hero. The figure that they are honoring is evil. Imagine a festival honoring Pluto. Okay. I don't mean the planet. I mean the demonic entity Pluto from mythology. Or imagine being at Mass in Lebanon in the Maronite rite and being told that suddenly you had to do a Mass offering to Jinn. You begin to see the problem. And a good priest allowed this to happen. Now they've been silent on this. Meanwhile, people are chattering on and on about how this one figure who did something a long time ago, who may have apologized for it or wrote a book that was written in a way that was clearly too complicated for the people critiquing it to understand, judging from the now responses being done by more interested traditionalist voices than I am. This is a real problem. because this isn't the only time like this. If you go read either Father Malachi Martin's Windswept House, which he professed until his last breath that was 99% real, but the only things not being real in it were the names he gave people and a couple of narrative things to turn it into a story. Or his book, The Jesuits. You will see that this dark arts stuff happens in mainstream religious communities. And here you got a glimpse of it. Because who in their right mind does something like this at Mass? Let me know what you think of this in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.